The hospital discharge papers were still folded in my purse when I opened my banking app to pay for groceries. I was standing in the Tesco Express near my flat, basket full of soup tins and bread, when I saw it. My account balance read £47 and 23 pence. It should have been over 2,000. I refreshed the app 3 times. My hand started shaking so badly the phone nearly slipped from my grip. My Social Security payment, my only income since the stroke, wasn't there. The payment history showed it had been deposited 4 days ago, the day after my surgery, but it wasn't in my account. That's when I noticed the asterisks at the bottom of the screen, the ones that appear when account details have been recently modified. I tapped the notification. Account holder change. Direct deposit rerouting confirmed. New account linked on the 14th of October. The 14th. The day I was lying in a hospital bed with tubes in my arms, unable to speak properly, half my face numb from the mini stroke. Someone had accessed my Social Security account and changed where my money was sent. And only 3 people in the world knew my login details. My daughter was in Australia. My sister was dead. That left 1 person. My son, Daniel. The boy I raised alone after his father left. The man I'd let move into my spare room 6 months ago when he said he just needed a bit of help getting back on his feet. The same person who'd driven me to the hospital, held my hand in the emergency room, and promised he'd take care of everything while I recovered. I looked down at my basket of groceries I couldn't afford. The woman behind me in the queue was getting impatient. My chest felt tight again, the way it had before the stroke, like something inside me was splitting open. But I didn't know yet that the money was just the beginning. I didn't know what else he'd done while I was unconscious. I didn't know about the emails, the calls, the paperwork he'd forged in my name. And I definitely didn't know about the second property. I left the groceries on the conveyor belt and walked out. The cashier called after me, but I couldn't hear her properly. Everything sounded like I was underwater. I made it to the bus stop before I had to sit down, my legs giving out beneath me. For 63 years, I'd survived on my own terms. Raised Daniel alone after his father drained our savings and disappeared when the boy was 4. Worked 2 jobs, morning shift at the bakery, evening shift cleaning offices, until my body gave out and the doctors said my heart couldn't take it anymore. The Social Security wasn't much, barely £900 a month, but it was mine. It was survival. It was dignity. Daniel had always been a loving boy. Sensitive, maybe too sensitive. He'd struggled after university, couldn't hold down jobs, said the anxiety was too much. I understood. I never pushed. When he showed up at my door last April with 2 suitcases and tears in his eyes, saying he'd lost his flat and just needed a few months, I didn't hesitate. He was my son. My only child. He'd been perfect at first. Cooked dinners, did the shopping, fixed the leaking tap I'd been ignoring for 2 years. We watched quiz shows together in the evenings. He seemed better, lighter. He told me he was applying for jobs, going to interviews. I believed him. The stroke happened on a Tuesday morning. I woke up and couldn't feel my left arm. Couldn't form words properly. Daniel found me on the bathroom floor and called 999. He rode with me in the ambulance, stayed in the hospital room for hours. The doctors said I was lucky. It was mild. I'd recover mostly, but I needed surgery to prevent another one. They scheduled it for 2 days later. I remembered Daniel leaning over my hospital bed the night before the operation, his face full of concern. He'd asked if I needed him to handle anything at home. Bills, paperwork, anything. I'd been so grateful. I told him my laptop password, said he could check my emails, make sure nothing urgent came through. I even mentioned my Social Security login was saved in my browser if he needed to check the payment had arrived, just in case something went wrong during surgery. I trusted him completely. Now, sitting at that bus stop with my phone clutched in my shaking hand, I pulled up his number. It rang 6 times before going to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I sent a text. Daniel, where's my money? Call me now. The bus came and went. I couldn't move. 20 minutes passed. No response. That's when I decided to check my emails. The inbox loaded slowly on my phone, and I scrolled through the unread messages from the past 2 weeks. Receipts from Amazon, things I hadn't ordered. a confirmation email from a credit card company, a card I didn't have. And then I saw it, buried 3 pages down, a notification from the Social Security Administration confirming a change of direct deposit information with a link to verify if I hadn't authorized it. The change had been made using my login from my laptop. The IP address was my home internet. My son had sat in my flat, used my computer, and stolen my income, while I was fighting to survive. But that wasn't all. There was another email, this one from a property management company. Subject line, "Congratulations on your new tenancy agreement." I opened it with numb fingers. "Dear Mrs. Patricia Holbrook, we are pleased to confirm your application for 24B Riverside Court has been approved. Your first month's rent of £1,200 and deposit of £1,200 have been received. Keys will be available for collection from the 20th of October. Today's date was the 19th of October. Someone had rented a flat in my name, using my details, my credit score, and they'd paid for it with money that should have been mine. I took a taxi home, even though I couldn't afford it. My hands were shaking too badly to manage the bus. When I unlocked my front door, the flat was empty. Daniel's jacket was gone from the hook. His trainers weren't by the door. I went straight to my bedroom and opened my laptop. The browser history had been cleared. Everything from the past 2 weeks gone. But he'd forgotten about the cloud backup on my emails. I logged into the web version and started searching. What I found made my blood turn cold. There were dozens of emails, confirmations, applications, correspondence, all sent from my account, all in my name, none of them written by me. He'd applied for 3 credit cards using my details, opened a new bank account at a different bank, applied for a personal loan of £8,000, which had been approved, and he'd done it all while I was in the hospital, using the access I'd given him. But the property rental was different. That email had attachments. I downloaded them with shaking hands. The tenancy agreement was for a 2-bedroom flat in a new development across town. Signed in my name, my actual signature, forged well enough that I had to look twice. The application form listed my income as £2,400 per month. He'd inflated it, made me look financially stable enough to afford it. And then I saw the second page of the tenant information form. Under additional occupants, there was one name listed. Daniel Holbrook, son. He wasn't stealing my money to run away. He was stealing my money to set up a life for himself, using me as the front, the guarantor, the one responsible for rent he'd never pay. My phone buzzed. Finally, a text from Daniel. "Mom, I can explain. Don't do anything stupid. I'll come by tomorrow, and we'll sort it." Sort it? As if he'd accidentally used my tea bags instead of systematically destroying my financial life. I didn't respond. Instead, I called the property management company. The woman who answered was polite but firm. "Yes, Mrs. Holbrook, your tenancy is confirmed. No, you can't cancel it now. You've signed a 12-month contract. If you want to break it, you'll owe 6 months' rent as penalty. That's £7,200. I tried to explain that I hadn't signed anything, that my identity had been stolen, but she cut me off. She said the signature had been verified, the deposit had cleared, and if I was claiming fraud, I'd need to file a police report and take it up with my bank. I hung up and sat in the darkness of my bedroom. The walls felt like they were closing in. Then I remembered something. 6 months ago, when Daniel first moved in, I'd caught him going through my filing cabinet. He'd said he was looking for bin bags, which made no sense, but I'd brushed it off. Now I understood. He'd been planning this for months, taking photos of my documents, my national insurance card, my passport, my bank statements. He'd been waiting for an opportunity, and when I had the stroke, he'd found it. But I still didn't know the worst part. I didn't know about the will. I went back to my emails and searched for anything related to legal documents. It took 10 minutes of scrolling before I found it hidden in my spam folder, probably filtered there automatically. A confirmation email from an online legal services website. Subject: Your last will and testament has been finalized. My hands went numb. I clicked it open. The attachment was a PDF, professionally formatted, legally binding if signed and witnessed. It stated that upon my death, all assets, my flat, my savings, my possessions, would transfer entirely to my son, Daniel Holbrook. The document was dated the 16th of October, 3 days after my surgery, while I was still groggy and weak in the hospital. It had been signed. My signature again, forged, but this time witnessed by 2 names I didn't recognize. Probably people he knew, friends who'd done him a favor. He hadn't just stolen my money. He'd positioned himself to inherit everything I had. And given that I'd just had a stroke, given that the doctors had warned me another one could be fatal, the timing wasn't a coincidence. My son had been preparing for me to die. I sat there in the dark, staring at that document, and something inside me shattered. This wasn't desperation. This wasn't a man struggling with mental health who'd made a terrible mistake. This was calculated. This was cold. I thought about every sacrifice I'd made. Every double shift I'd worked while he slept safely in his bed. Every time I'd gone without so he could have school trips, new trainers, birthday parties. I'd given him everything, and he'd repaid me by planning my financial ruin, and possibly worse. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Daniel. I know you're angry, but you don't understand the pressure I've been under. I needed this, Mum. You weren't using that money anyway. You're home all day. I have a life to build. I read that message 3 times. You weren't using that money anyway. That money was my food, my heating, my medication, my survival. And he thought I wasn't using it, that I spent the entire night going through every financial account I had. It was worse than I'd imagined. The credit cards he'd opened in my name had already been used. One had a balance of £3,200 spent on electronics, clothes, deposits for the flat. Another had £1,800 charged to it. The personal loan, the full £8,000, had been deposited into the new bank account he'd opened in my name, and it was completely empty now. He'd withdrawn it all. I was now £14,000 in debt. Money I'd never borrowed, never spent, never seen. But it was the property that made me understand his full plan. I called the management company again in the morning, this time pretending I was confirming move-in details. The woman told me cheerfully that my son had already collected the keys yesterday evening. He'd moved in last night. He'd left me, taken my money, opened a new life in a flat I was legally responsible for, and abandoned me in my own home. Now strapped with debt, I'd never survive. I sat with that knowledge for an hour. Then I made 3 phone calls. The first was to the police. I filed a fraud report, gave them every email, every document, every piece of evidence I had. The officer who took my statement was sympathetic but realistic. These cases took time. Months, maybe a year. And proving it was hard when the person had legitimate access to my home and my accounts. The second call was to my bank. I froze every account, canceled every card, and started the dispute process. They were helpful, but the damage was done. My credit score was ruined. The debts were in my name. The third call was to Daniel. He answered this time. His voice was defensive, angry. He said I was overreacting, that he'd been planning to pay me back, that I'd never understand what it was like to be struggling in your 30s while your mother sat comfortably in a paid-off flat. He said I was selfish for not helping him when he needed it most. I listened to every word. Then I said, very calmly, that I'd reported him to the police for fraud and identity theft. That I'd documented everything. That the forged will, the fake signatures, the stolen money, all of it was evidence now. There was a long silence. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. He said I'd never go through with it, that I loved him too much, that I'd forgive him like I always did. He said I was just scared and angry because of the stroke, that I wasn't thinking clearly. He said, "You need me, Mum. Who else do you have?" I hung up. He was right about one thing. I didn't have anyone else. My sister was gone. My friends were few and far between. I was alone. But I didn't need him. Not anymore. The legal process took 9 months. Daniel was arrested and charged with fraud, identity theft, and forgery. He pleaded guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence, 18 months in prison, suspended to 12 with community service, and an order to repay the debts. He never repaid a penny. The flat he'd rented in my name was eventually taken over by the management company after I provided the police report. I was released from the tenancy, but my credit was destroyed. The loans, the credit cards, I negotiated settlements, paid what I could, let the rest go to collections. I'll be paying it off until I'm 70. Daniel sent me one letter from prison. It was full of self-pity, blaming his father for abandoning us, blaming me for not giving him enough, blaming the world for his failures. He didn't apologize. Not once. I never wrote back. I'm 64 now. I live in the same flat, though it's quieter than it's ever been. I've had to take on small jobs again, online data entry, things I can do from home to supplement the social security he didn't manage to steal permanently. Sometimes people ask if I regret reporting him, if I wish I'd handled it privately, kept it in the family. And I tell them the truth. I regret trusting him when he showed me who he was. I regret ignoring the warning signs because I wanted to believe my son was still the boy I'd raised. But I don't regret holding him accountable, because he didn't just steal money. He stole my security, my dignity, my peace. He looked at me lying in a hospital bed and saw an opportunity. And if I'd let that go, if I'd forgiven him and welcomed him back, I'd have been telling him it was okay to destroy me. And I deserved better than that. I think about him sometimes, wonder if he's changed, if he's learned anything. But I don't reach out. I can't. Because some betrayals don't heal. Some break the bond so completely that all you can do is let go and protect what's left of yourself. My son taught me that the people who hurt you most are the ones you let closest. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away, even when it's from your own child. If my story touched you or made you think, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you've ever felt betrayed by family, know this: you're not alone, and choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.